The faint hum of Verline hovercrafts filled the skies over Earth, a sound that had become a part of daily life since their arrival a decade ago. Commander Arella Vale stood on the observation deck of the Verline base, her tall, lithe frame poised with an authority that commanded attention. Her obsidian-black eyes scanned a human settlement below, her silvery skin reflecting the light from the twin suns orbiting far above. Her disdain for humans ran deep, rooted in the events that had unfolded early in their collaboration. Arella's brother, Captain Zarak, had been killed during a human rebellion against the Velin aid mission. Since then, she viewed humans as reckless creatures, impulsive, emotional, and ultimately unworthy of Verline resources. Yet here she was, assigned to oversee the success of Verline agricultural initiatives on Earth. They can barely sustain their planet, yet they claim to understand it better than we do, she muttered to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Savaris. The younger Velin, with a sharp mind, hesitated before responding. Commander, they do have a unique connection to their land. Their methods may be primitive, but their resilience is remarkable. Resilience without discipline is chaos, Arella snapped, her voice cold as steel. We cannot afford to let emotions dictate policy. That's what separates us from them. A message chimed, interrupting their conversation. A holographic display illuminated the air before Arella, showing the image of an older Velin official. Commander Vale, the figure began, your presence is required at the KTH farm. The human caretaker, Callan Ree, has reported irregularities in crop yields. Investigate and ensure compliance. Arella's jaw tightened. Understood. I will leave immediately. Arrival at KTH farm. The journey to the farm was uneventful, but allowed Arella time to mentally prepare. She had read Callan's profile, a human farmer with years of experience, respected among his kind, but noted for his unorthodox methods. She was skeptical. Humans often equated stubbornness with wisdom. As her hovercraft landed on the outskirts of the vast farmland, the sight of green fields stretching endlessly under the warm sun did little to soften her mood. Callan was waiting for her, his arms crossed, a faint smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. He was tall, his tawny skin weathered from years under the sun, his eyes a striking shade of amber that seemed to gleam with quiet confidence. Commander Arella, he greeted, his tone polite, but with a hint of amusement. Didn't think I'd have the honor of hosting Velline royalty today. She stepped out of the craft, her posture rigid. This is not a social visit, human. Show me the issue. Of course, he said, unfazed. He gestured for her to follow as he walked toward the fields. Arella studied him as they walked. His movements were deliberate, efficient, and oddly calming. He wasn't like the human she had encountered during the rebellion. He didn't bristle under her authority, nor did he try to appease her with false flattery. The crops in this section, Corn began, pointing to a row of withered plants, aren't responding to the soil treatments your team recommended. I've been testing alternatives, but I thought it best to inform you before making major changes. Arella knelt to examine the plants, her long, claw-like fingers deftly analyzing the soil. You've deviated from the prescribed methods, she asked, her tone sharp. Callan shrugged. The methods weren't working. Should I have let the entire yield fail? His calm defiance irked her. Velin protocols are designed with precision. Your interference is unnecessary. With respect, Commander, he said, meeting her gaze, your protocols don't account for Earth's unpredictability. Sometimes you have to adapt. Her eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. Instead, she focused on the data her scanner was providing. To her annoyance, his assessment was correct. The soil treatments were incompatible with this particular crop. Tension in the field's hours passed as Arella and Callan worked side by side, analyzing the fields and discussing potential solutions. Her initial disdain for him only grew as she realized he was not only competent, but also unafraid to challenge her. "You've been doing this a long time," she observed grudgingly, as he demonstrated a technique for planting seeds more efficiently. "Since I was a kid," he replied. "Farming runs in my family. Do all humans inherit their professions from their ancestors?" she asked, her tone tinged with sarcasm. "Not all," he said, chuckling. "But there's something about working with the land that feels grounding. It teaches you patience." "Patience is a virtue your species rarely exhibits," she shot back. Kaon smirked. "Maybe you've been looking at the wrong humans." His words unsettled her more than she cared to admit. For years, she had clung to her hatred, using it as a shield against the pain of losing her brother. But this human, with his calm demeanour and quiet determination, was making her question everything. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the fields, Kaon paused to admire the view. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said, almost to himself. Arella glanced at him, her gaze softening for just a moment. She wouldn't admit it, but she agreed. The storm. That night. A violent storm swept through the region. Arella was in her quarters at the Velan base when the emergency alert sounded. Against her better judgment, she ordered a transport to take her to the farm. When she arrived, the scene was chaotic. Trees were uprooted, equipment scattered, and much of the farmland submerged underwater. In the midst of it all was Callan, working tirelessly to salvage what he could. His clothes were soaked, mud streaked his skin, but he didn't stop. "Callan!" she called, her voice cutting through the roar of the storm. He turned, surprise flickering across his face before he quickly masked it. "Commander? What are you doing here?" "Ensuring compliance," she said, though even she didn't believe her own words. Without waiting for a response, she activated her wrist device, deploying Velan technology to drain the excess water and stabilize the soil. Cullen watched her for a moment before nodding and resuming his work. They worked side by side through the night, their differences forgotten in the face of shared purpose. By dawn, the storm had passed, and they had managed to save a portion of the crops. "You didn't have to come," Cullen said as they surveyed the damage. "I acted in the interest of efficiency," she replied, her voice steady, but the way her gaze lingered on him betrayed her true feelings. For the first time in years, Arella felt something other than hatred. It was unsettling, but also intriguing, a seed of doubt. Lingering thoughts. As she returned to the base, Arella couldn't shake the image of Callan's determination. His resilience reminded her of the Velan values she held dear, yet it was something uniquely human. "Is something troubling you, Commander?" Savaris asked when she arrived. "No," she replied curtly, but deep down she knew that something had shifted. Kaon was unlike any human she had ever encountered, and it was beginning to unravel everything she thought she knew. The days following the storm brought an uneasy calm to the region. Arella immersed herself in reports and protocols, trying to suppress the lingering thoughts of Colin Ree. Yet no matter how much she tried to focus, memories of their shared effort under the stormy skies crept into her mind. His steady hands pulling equipment from the mud, his unwavering determination to protect the land. Arella's disdain for humans was well-founded, yet Callan seemed to defy every expectation. Her mind wrestled with contradictions, and for a Velan known for their unwavering logic, such doubts were intolerable. Savaris noticed her distraction. "Commander," he ventured one morning, "you've been uncharacteristically quiet. Should I be concerned?" She looked up sharply, her expression unreadable. "I am simply recalibrating my approach to Earth operations. Nothing more." "Recalibrating?" Savaris's tone carried a note of skepticism. "Does this have anything to do with the human Callan?" Arella's eyes narrowed. "You presume too much, Lieutenant." "My apologies," Savaris replied, bowing his head slightly. "It's just unusual for you to visit the same human twice." Arella waved him off, but his words unsettled her. Was Severus right? Had she, in some inexplicable way, allowed Callan to influence her? The idea was both repellent and oddly intriguing. An unexpected invitation. 2 days later, a communication request appeared on Arella's console. It was from Callan. "Commander Vale," his voice crackled through the hologram, "I've made progress on the crop restoration. I thought you might want to see it for yourself." She hesitated. Was this a ploy for attention, a human attempt at manipulation? But curiosity, and perhaps something deeper, compelled her to accept. "I will inspect the site tomorrow at first light," she replied curtly. When she arrived at the farm the next day, Callan greeted her with his usual calm demeanour, though there was a spark of something mischievous in his amber eyes. "You're punctual," he said. "I value efficiency," she replied, her tone cool. "Now show me this progress." Callan led her to the fields, where rows of freshly sprouted crops stood in stark contrast to the storm-damaged sections. The sight was impressive, even to Arella's critical eye. "You implemented new irrigation channels," she observed, noting the precise placement of the water lines. "Had to," Callan said. "The storm changed the soil composition. Your protocols wouldn't have accounted for that." She shot him a pointed look. "You speak as though Velan methods are flawed." "Not flawed," he corrected, "just rigid. Earth isn't like Velcro. It's chaotic, unpredictable. You have to be willing to adapt." Arella opened her mouth to argue, but stopped herself. His words echoed a sentiment she had rarely entertained, the idea that adaptability, a trait she often derided as a human weakness, might also be a strength. A moment of vulnerability. As they continued their inspection, Callan gestured toward a small grove near the edge of the farm. "There's something I want to show you." Arella followed him, her curiosity piqued despite herself. The grove was dense with trees, their leaves shimmering with morning dew. At its centre stood a small, weathered monument, a simple stone slab etched with human and Velan symbols. "This is a memorial," Colleen explained, "for the Velkarans and humans who died during the early years of the collaboration. My father helped build it." Arella felt a pang of emotion she couldn't quite name. "Why would humans honour Velk? Your kind has shown little gratitude for our sacrifices." Callan's expression softened. "Not all of us are ungrateful, Commander. Some of us understand the cost of peace." For a moment silence hung between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Arella's gaze lingered on the monument, her mind flashing back to her brother's face. Zarek had believed in the collaboration, had given his life for it, and yet she had allowed her grief to blind her to any possibility of reconciliation. "Your people did not build this alone," she said finally, her voice quieter than usual. "No," Callan admitted. "It was a joint effort, proof that we can work together when we put aside our differences." Arella looked at him, her expression inscrutable. "Perhaps." The festival. Later that evening, as Arella prepared to leave, Callan surprised her with an invitation. "There's a harvest festival tonight," he said. "It's nothing fancy, but it's a big deal for the locals. You should come." "I have no interest in human celebrations," she replied, though her voice lacked its usual bite. "Suit yourself," Callan said with a shrug. "But you might learn something about the people you're so quick to judge." She watched him walk away, irritation flaring in her chest. How dare he presume to lecture her? And yet, as she sat in her hovercraft, the thought of returning to the sterile confines of the Velan base felt unappealing. Against her better judgment, she returned to the farm that evening. The festival was already in full swing when she arrived. Lanterns hung from trees, casting a warm glow over the gathered crowd. Humans of all ages danced, laughed, and shared meals under the open sky. The air was thick with the scent of roasted meat and sweet spices. Callan spotted her almost immediately. "Didn't think you'd show," he said, his grin teasing. I'm here to observe, she said stiffly. Well then, observe this. He extended a hand toward her. She stared at it, confused. What are you doing? It's called dancing, he said, his tone light. Humans do it to celebrate. Don't worry, I'll lead. I do not... Before she could protest further, he took her hand and guided her to the clearing where others were dancing. His grip was firm but gentle, his movements confident but unassuming. Arella found herself reluctantly following his lead, her rigid posture softening as the music swelled around them. You're not bad at this, Carlin said, a playful glint in his eye. I am, Valen, she replied. We excel at everything we attempt, laughed, the sound warm and infectious. For a moment, Arella forgot her disdain, forgot her doubts. All she could feel was the rhythm of the music and the steady, reassuring presence of Carlin beside her. A shifting perspective. By the time the festival ended, Arella was no closer to understanding her feelings. Kaelin's kindness and authenticity were disarming, challenging the walls she had built around herself. As she prepared to leave, Kaelin walked her to her hovercraft. Thanks for coming, Commander, he said. I know it wasn't exactly in your comfort zone. She hesitated, her gaze meeting his. Humans are more complex than I anticipated. Kaelin smiled. I'll take that as a compliment. As the hovercraft lifted into the sky, Arella couldn't help but glance back at the farm, the lights of the festival fading into the distance. For the first time in years, she felt a flicker of something she thought she had lost. Hope. The days following. The days following the festival were an emotional whirlwind for Arella. She returned to her duties with renewed determination, but Carlin's presence lingered in her thoughts, his words, his laugh, and the way he had drawn her into something as simple and absurd as a human dance. These memories unsettled her. She told herself it was nothing more than idle distraction, but deep down she knew the truth was more complicated. Kaelin, on the other hand, had been strangely quiet. Arella found herself checking the reports from his farm more frequently than necessary, scanning for signs of progress or trouble. But everything seemed routine. Too routine, perhaps. An unexpected call. Late one evening, as she reviewed logistical data, she received an unexpected communication from Carlin. His face flickered into view, his expression serious. Commander Vil, he began, his tone unusually formal, I need your assistance. There's been an incident. Arella straightened in her seat, her instincts sharpening. What sort of incident? It's the crops, he explained. The growth rate has slowed dramatically and I suspect contamination in the soil. I need a second opinion and, frankly, your expertise. She hesitated for only a moment before nodding. I'll be there within the hour. The investigation. The hovercraft ride was swift, and the sight of Kaelin waiting at the edge of the field sent an odd pang through her chest. He looked tired, the lines around his eyes more pronounced in the moonlight, but his determination was as steadfast as ever. The contamination seems localized, he said as they walked toward the affected area. But if it spreads, it could devastate the entire crop. Arella knelt by the soil, her scanner humming softly as it analyzed the composition. The results were troubling. Traces of an unfamiliar chemical compound had seeped into the ground, likely carried by runoff from nearby industrial activity. This will require immediate remediation, she said, her voice clipped. Your irrigation system must be adjusted to prevent further exposure. Carlin sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. That's easier said than done. The equipment I have isn't designed for this kind of overhaul. Arella's gaze softened, though she kept her tone stern. Then we will find a way. Humans are supposed to be adaptable, are they not? He smirked at her words, though the weariness didn't leave his eyes. Touché. Working together. They worked side by side well into the night, devising a plan to redirect the irrigation channels and isolate the contaminated soil. The task was grueling, but neither of them complained. Kaelin's perseverance impressed Arella, and she found herself marvelling at his ability to remain hopeful even in the face of adversity. At one point he paused, leaning on his shovel. "You know, I don't think I've ever seen a Valen get their hands dirty like this." "Consider yourself fortunate," she replied dryly, though the faintest hint of a smile tugged at her lips. By the time they finished, the first light of dawn was breaking over the horizon. Kaelin looked at her, his expression a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. "Thank you," he said simply. Arella nodded, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "Your success benefits us all. It is my duty." "Maybe," he said, his gaze lingering on her, "but I think there's more to you than duty." She stiffened, unprepared for the comment. Sudden vulnerability in his voice. Before she could respond, he stepped back, giving her space. "Get some rest, Commander," he said. "You've earned it." As she watched him walk away, Arella felt a strange, unbidden warmth in her chest. It was a sensation she couldn't quite name, but it unsettled her nonetheless. Back at the Velen base, Arella found herself replaying the events of the night in her mind. Kaelin's words, his unwavering determination, the way he had looked at her. It all felt too significant to ignore. And yet acknowledging it would mean confronting her own biases, her own fears. Savaris noticed her distraction. "Once again, Commander, is something troubling you?" "No," she replied curtly. "Why do you ask?" "You've been different lately," he said, choosing his words carefully. "More contemplative. It's unlike you." Arella shot him a withering look. "Do not presume to analyze me, Lieutenant. Focus on your own duties." "Yes, Commander," he said, though the concern in his eyes remained. Despite her best efforts to push it aside, Arella's connection with Kaelin continued to grow. Their interactions became more frequent, each one chipping away at the wall she had built around herself. She found herself seeking his perspective, valuing his input in ways she never would have imagined. Kaelin, for his part, seemed equally drawn to her. He was careful not to overstep, but his respect for her was evident in every word, every gesture. And though he never said it outright, Arella could sense the unspoken feelings that lingered between them. It wasn't long before their relationship began to attract attention. The humans in the settlement whispered about the Valine commander who spent so much time with one of their own, while Esivaris and the other Velcrans viewed Kaelin with growing suspicion. One evening, as they stood by the edge of the fields, Kaelin turned to her with a question that had been weighing on his mind. "Why do you hate humans?" he asked, his tone gentle but firm. Arella stiffened, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "Hate is a strong word." "But accurate," he said. "At least it was." "So what changed?" She hesitated, the words catching in her throat. "My brother," she said finally. "He believed in the collaboration, believed that humans and Velcran could coexist. He gave his life for that belief." Kaelin's expression softened. "And you blamed us for his death." "Yes," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was easier to hate than to grieve." Kaelin reached out, his hand hovering near hers. "I'm sorry for your loss, but maybe it's time to let go of that hate." She looked at him, her eyes searching his. In that moment she saw not an enemy, but a kindred spirit, a man who had faced his own losses, his own battles, and had chosen hope over despair. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "perhaps it is." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the fields in a golden glow, Arella felt a flicker of something she hadn't experienced in years, the possibility of healing. And for the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where hate no longer defined her. Over the following weeks, the relationship between Arella and Kaelin deepened in ways neither had anticipated. They continued to work together, not just to resolve issues in the settlement, but also to foster a mutual understanding between Velcrans and humans. Their shared commitment became a bridge between their people, and the whispered suspicion that had followed them gradually gave way to a quiet acceptance. But the path to peace was not without obstacles. Savares, ever loyal to Veline ideals, grew increasingly vocal in his objections to Arella's choices. One evening, he confronted her in private, his voice brimming with frustration. "Commander, your actions jeopardize the mission," he said, his tone sharp. "You're allowing a human to influence you, cloud your judgment." Arella met his gaze with unwavering resolve. "My judgment remains clear, Lieutenant. It is you who refuses to see that cooperation is our best chance for survival." "Cooperation," Savares spat the word like venom, "or submission." "It is neither," she replied. "It is evolution. We cannot cling to the past if we hope to thrive." Her words left Savares momentarily speechless, but the tension between them remained palpable. Arella knew she was walking a fine line, but her conviction was stronger than ever. Humanity might be compromised, but Carlin, as steadfast as ever, refused to let their doubts sway him. One evening, under a canopy of stars, Carlin found Arella by the edge of the fields. She stood silently, gazing at the night sky, her expression pensive. "Troubled thoughts?" he asked gently. "Always," she replied, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "But tonight they seem less burdensome." Carlin stepped closer, his voice soft. "You've changed, you know, for the better." Arella turned to him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "So have you." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken emotions between them. Finally, Carlin reached for her hand, his touch tentative, but firm. "Arella," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "I don't know what the future holds, but I know I want you to be part of it." She looked at him, her heart pounding in her chest. "You are a fool, Carlin." "Probably," he said with a lopsided grin, "but I'm your fool." A soft laugh escaped her lips, and for the first time in years she felt a flicker of unrestrained joy. She stepped closer, her hand resting against his cheek. "Then we are both fools," she whispered. Their lips met in a tender kiss, a union of two worlds that had once seemed irreconcilable. In that moment, the barriers between them dissolved, leaving only the undeniable truth of their connection. News of their bond spread quickly, and while it was met with mixed reactions, it also sparked a dialogue that had long been absent. Humans and Velcrans began to see each other in a new light, their shared struggles outweighing their differences. Arella's leadership was tested like never before, but with Carlin by her side, she faced each challenge with renewed strength. Together, they worked to mend the rift between their people, fostering trust and understanding where once there had been only suspicion and fear. Savares, though initially resistant, eventually came to respect Arella's choices. His loyalty to her outweighed his prejudices, and he became a reluctant but valuable ally in their efforts to unite the settlement. In time, the collaboration between humans and Velcrans flourished. The settlement became a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of compassion and cooperation. And while the journey had been fraught with hardship, it was also filled with moments of profound beauty. As the years passed, Arella and Kaelin's bond only deepened. They built a life together, one that defied the expectations of their respective worlds. Their love became a symbol of what was possible when two souls dared to challenge the boundaries of prejudice and fear. And though the future remained uncertain, they faced it with unwavering hope. Proof that even the deepest divides could be bridged by the simplest, most powerful force of all, love.